Hi folks, I'm Brian Maffett, Total Training's Chief Creative Officer, and in this Mastering Advanced Techniques training series, I've decided to try something different. I'll be sharing with you an extremely rich, real-world project that I designed a couple of seasons ago using Adobe Photoshop CS4. By working through the pieces of this detailed, dense design, I hope to reveal some new ways of thinking inside Photoshop, organizing your workflow, exploring some tools you probably aren't familiar with, and using some old tools in new and refreshing ways. At the end of the day, I hope your brain will be buzzing with new ideas, and you'll be itching to try out the stuff that we've learned on your own projects. The design we'll be working on was created for a concert by the Rockland County Choral Society. I happen to be the president of this organization, and we recently performed Carl Orff's Carmina Burana. If you don't know it by name, you certainly would know it if you heard it. Go look it up on YouTube if you like. This incredibly dramatic piece needed an intense poster design, and since the source material is a book of ribald poems written by mad monks, and since the piece is often performed as a ballet, we decided that the design should feature a dancer and invoke the idea of sacred and profane. And without getting too dirty or too sacrilegious, I think we succeeded nicely. I think you will too. As the series goes along, however, we're going to get into some pretty complex territory that will truly tax the capabilities of our rig. Hopefully you'll stick with it, because I can guarantee you'll see some stuff that you didn't know Photoshop could do. Let's start the same way I start out all of my projects, by taking the clothes off a ballerina and setting her on fire. Don't worry. Nothing dirty here, I promise. So the first element we're going to focus on is the fire sprite, the little magical dancing fire gal that we're going to create in this chapter. And I went to iStockPhoto.com, which is, a great site, terrific source for stock photography. And if you type in fire sprite, you, believe it or not, actually get some results. I got a little over 100 results when I tried it, but none of them were quite exactly what I had in mind. Several of them were video, which was quite interesting, but not what I needed. So it was time to actually search for some elements and create something unique. So the first thing I needed to find was a dancer in a good pose, and this was the image that I settled on. Now, to spot this image and open this image, you'll go to the Project Files folder, which should have been installed on your desktop or wherever you chose to install them. Inside there is a Fire Sprite folder, and inside that is a Chapter 1 folder called Dancer. That's the folder that you want to navigate to. In my case, I'm in Bridge, where we want to pick the ballerina and launch her in Photoshop, which I can do here simply by double-clicking. Now, I really like this dancer's pose. It was pretty unique compared to a lot of the other ballet dancers who typically have both hands over their heads or sticking out from their bodies or were just a little too active. This sort of reminded me a little bit almost like a belly dancing pose, and I wanted something exotic, so this was perfect. But there are some problems with this image for our purposes. It's not a problematic image at all. It's an absolutely beautiful image shot by Alexander Yakovlev and available to you on iStockPhoto.com if you want a higher resolution version of it. If I zoom in a little bit with Command plus or Control plus on Windows and hold the space bar to pan around, we can see that she's absolutely lovely, and she has this kind of goth makeup, which is going to work out well for us. However, there are a couple of wardrobe problems for a fire sprite. First, she's wearing a tutu, which, I don't know what you know about fire sprites, but one of the things I do know is they do not wear tutus. In fact, the other problem is that she's got an outfit at all, and I'm not suggesting that we are going to create a nude here, but certainly a fire sprite doesn't wear an asbestos leotard. It's basically made of fire or lava or something. So what we're basically going to do is we're going to isolate the form of this dancer, and we're going to use that form as a base for a really interesting illustration. Now, a lot of what we're working with is extremely high contrast and very, very easy to mask. Most of the body, for example, is a pretty nice, sharp line between the foreground and the background. Very, very easy to isolate, either using selection tools or, in our case, the path tools. And I'm going to hold down the Option key and use the mouse wheel to back out of the image a little bit. And this is going to be the biggest challenge for us. And it's actually one of my favorite parts of the lesson. Hair in almost any scenario is difficult to mask, and I'm going to show you a very cool way to mask hair. And this hair in particular is kind of tangled up with the background, all these white painted bricks that by themselves have a lot of detail that we're going to have to contend with as well. So This is a great example of an element that to isolate it for our purposes will require a combination of several techniques to create a satisfactory finished result.